What will the tech industry look like in the next 5 years? Every tech leader knows that they can't predict every advance on the horizon, but that it's nevertheless their responsibility to plan for the future as much as possible. Across the industry, leaders are being asked to take the plunge and invest in leading-edge technologies like AI workloads to future-proof their business. But without the right strategy and plan for adoption, they can end up adrift down the line without a clear idea where they're headed next. Those looking to unlock the benefits of AI need to first look inward and ask how AI can make tangible differences to their business workflow. Do you know the precise areas of your business AI could improve? And have you ironed out your plan for adoption? You're listening to a special episode of the ITPro Podcast, brought to you by Dell Technologies. Hi, I'm Jane McCallion. Today I'm speaking to Steve Young, SVP and MD at Dell Technologies UK, to explain how businesses can adopt AI smoothly and ensure their route to integration works in their own best interests. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jane. Delighted to be here.
So AI has been part of the conversation in tech spaces for years, but within the last two, we've seen some major advances buoyed by the likes of generative AI. To start off with, how mature would you say the market is right now when it comes to AI adoption?
Yeah, you're right to say that AI has certainly gathered pace in the last few years. Probably, I would say, unprecedented pace. And it is an amazing time to be working in technology, which I guess is at the start of this wave of technology innovation that's going to be brought about by AI and Gen AI. And I think will change the way we live and work for the next few decades. But when you ask companies, although 81% would say it's going to have a massive impact on their organization and their industry, there's about less than half that would say, we're not really sure what our industry is going to look like. And we're also struggling to keep up with the pace of AI innovation. And what I think that's meant is there's two speeds. There's the fast lane, if you like, organizations who are, steaming fast ahead, but they're typically in specific industries. And I would say those industries are one of the major ones is the research industries. So the likes of a Sanger Institute or a Cambridge University. And as we know, AI and ML has been around for many decades. These organizations have been at the forefront of research. They're focused on solving some of the world's largest problems. And actually, Dell, along with Cambridge University and Intel, have a project called Project Dawn, which is in conjunction with the UK Atomic Energy Authority, and is looking at solving some of the large energy problems we have in the world today. There's a belief that fusion technology could be one of those solutions. But as you can imagine, Jane, we can't build a fusion plant overnight. So what we're using is technology to build a digital twin of what a fusion plant could look like to really accelerate that research into fusion. So those research institutes, I think, are well on the path. There is another industry, algorithmic traders, who have built mature financial models for automated trading. They're using accelerated computing. They're using GPUs to effectively make money on the markets. And what they've seen is as more advanced technology comes with GPU, they're looking to scale up and scale out their models, globalize their models, so that they can be even more successful in the financial services marketplace. So they're certainly in that fast lane that I talked about. I think the third set of organizations are the ones that are born in AI, the startups, the ones that will, I guess a comparison would be Uber when the smartphone came along. They're looking to fundamentally transform the way services are consumed. And I would say a great example of that in the UK is a company called Wave, who have built an AI-based ADAS platform. I had I'll call it pleasure, of going in one of their vehicles a couple of weeks ago around Islington in London. And what was fascinating, the car using Wave technology was making decisions real time. Fascinating and a little scary to begin with. But actually, what was also fascinating was some of the times where it didn't work. And for example, there was a situation where we were, a car pulled in front of us, and we were getting ready to pull out because the road ahead was clear. But then a car came up behind and we stopped. Now, that car behind flashed its lights, but at that time, the AI hadn't kicked in to allow us to carry on. Now, that's, for me, is logical because culturally, flashing lights can mean many different things.
Yeah.
So again, they're well advanced and well on the road to bringing this to many of the vehicle manufacturers. So really exciting. And there are a number of organizations like that across the world who are really at the forefront and in that fast lane. And then the last set of organizations, I would say, are very much in the fast lane, are what we're calling cloud service providers. So think of them as being almost GPU hyperscalers. They know that if they can build out capability for organizations to spin up proof of concepts and then ultimately go into production, then they're at the forefront of trying to drive that. So for me, they're the four sets of industries that are in the fast lane. I would argue pretty much everyone else, and I would include Dell Technologies in that, are really getting a handle on their use cases right now and where to get started. So it's definitely specific industries that are leading the way, I would say.
Yeah. And some of those statistics you pointed out at the beginning sound very familiar to me. You know, the idea that companies really, they want to do something with this technology. They just don't quite know what that something is. So if we look at all the possibilities of AI and the different paths that one could take, that can be quite daunting for business leaders. So where should they start when it comes to AI adoption?
Yeah, you're right. It is daunting. I mean, you want to be taking advantage of the technology, but you want to do it in the right areas. But the key is to get started because I don't know, it would be like, the transport industry or the textile manufacturing industry deciding to ignore the Industrial Revolution, or I don't know, a retail store deciding, you know what, we're just going to focus on bricks and mortar. We're never going to have an online presence. That's how important and transformational a moment I think we are right now. So I think the important thing is absolutely to get started. But getting started, I think, means focusing on, understanding what your core business value is, both now and in future. Understand your processes and your capability, because that everything comes from that. If you don't focus on that as the key drivers between your AI projects, then I think probably one of two things can happen. The first thing is you can almost get stuck in analysis paralysis. I've heard people call it pilot purgatory as well, where you basically end up in this continuous loop of introspection because you're scared of choosing the wrong option. You're scared of that wrong option leading to being on the front pages for the wrong reason. And I fully understand that. And that's one extreme. The other extreme is you maybe have a lack of focus, which can lead to a lack of governance. And you almost get this situation where it's AI first project come, first project served. It's whoever shouts the loudest gets started. And whilst that can lead to success, one of the potential challenges is leaders end up pouring precious resources, both people and money, into projects that don't really move the needle and don't really align to business value. So my advice would be to make sure that leaders and organizations focus on that a targeted top-down approach, which makes sure that an AI project will drive genuine business transformation. But the reality, Jane, is that the challenge is nobody has all the answers. So I think that's why it's really important that business leaders look for partners in this space. And when choosing a partner in this space, I would be looking for an organization that has an end-to-end technology portfolio with AI, but also has the skills and resources to help guide and advise an organization on its AI journey.
It's funny what you say there about, organizations, they're pouring money into something that's either in pilot purgatory, which I love, or, just kind of going for it because we need some generative AI, and whether or not there's actually any ROI there is another matter. I heard it described as FOMO versus FOMO. So FOMO, fear of missing out, versus fear of messing up. And
I've
that's
not
the
heard
kind
FOMO.
of...
I like that.
I only heard it last week or the week before. So yeah, that's the kind of parallels that you've got going on there. When it comes to, you've spoken about some of the kinds of companies that are in the fast lane, as you put it. Many organizations in fields like finance, accepting algorithmic training, healthcare, government, they're naturally quite cautious when it comes to adopting new technologies. While the potential of AI is exciting, there are concerns about risk, implementation challenges, and like you said, they're all very understandable given the weight of what this kind of organization is involved in. So instead of focusing on the perceived risks, the FOMO, how can these sectors begin to leverage AI in a way that aligns with their specific needs and risk tolerance? Where should they start?
Yeah, it's not easy. That's the important thing to recognize, Jane. There are a number of challenges and there's a number of pressures for organizations getting started. But there's also a number of challenges, probably I would say three main challenges, which is slowing the progress or even slowing the start. The first challenge is that AI implementations can be really complex, and fundamentally, because for a successful AI implementation, data is really, really important. It's the essential raw material. If I think about AI being an engine, then data is the fuel that makes sure that engine goes.
Yeah.
But for these organizations, data is hugely complex. For example, how do organizations integrate diverse sources of data? How do you do data preparation? How do you get the right access to the right data at the right time? But there's also the considerations around data governance. So that is the first big challenge, but that leads to what I would say is a second big challenge, which a lot of organizations rightly are concerned about, because AI can create the risk of data and IP leakage. We can have privacy issues, there's data sovereignty challenges. We've already heard many times about various different organizations who, well-meaning developers have interacted with a Gen AI solution in the public cloud and, unknowingly uploaded some key IP related to that organization, which then becomes accessible and part of a Gen AI platform. So FOMO, to your point, fear of messing up, that's a classic example that I think is holding organizations back. And then there's the third element, which, let's face it, is cost. It's not like organizations are being showered with money to say, here's a bunch of new budget to go ahead and get moving with your AI project. Typically, what we're seeing is organizations are diverting funds, possibly for some key keeping the show on the road type resources, into AI project. And there are high acquisition costs in many cases with AI. There's unpredictable cloud computing costs. There's the need for specialist skills, which aren't always cost effective on the market. And also a real consideration of as you move GPUs into your data center, that's a paradigm shift in terms of energy consumption and cooling. So there are a number of challenges with getting started.
Yeah.
And I think to my earlier point about finding good partners to work with, I think with these challenges, partnering with technology providers like Dell can ensure that customers can harness the power of AI more quickly by overcoming those really three critical obstacles: tackling complexity, tackling risk, and tackling cost. And the way we do that, in summary, is really the Dell AI Factory, which we've developed in conjunction with NVIDIA, and it helps customers make the most of their data, obviously the raw material that's powering that AI factory. We bring to the table the industry's only end-to-end AI optimized infrastructure, but also deep partnerships with AI organizations, as I mentioned, like NVIDIA and others, but also the insight, a comprehensive suite of services to help organizations from strategy and planning to implementation and then ultimately scaling. So We're finding that our customers who work with us are benefiting by that because they can leverage our integrated AI solutions, which means it's simpler for them to get going. We can work with them to ensure that the most valuable data is protected, but also managed and accessible at the right time. And then finally, from an investment perspective, we have a set of solutions called Apex, which basically means organizations are only paying for the infrastructure that they're using. So it avoids that large upfront CapEx investment to get going.
So, in the weeks and months following an enterprise AI rollout, we've got past our FOMO, we're off. How can businesses ensure that they are on track with their AI? How can they, really measure success objectively? Because that's hard at the best of times.
It is hard, but it's also not rocket science. With any key transformational program within any organization, I don't see AI as vastly different from any other significant program. Firstly, it's about setting clear KPIs. And also, of course, making sure that those KPIs are tied to the specific organization's business goal. Make sure there's clear metrics in those KPIs. Some of the programs we're involved with within our own organization are focused on metrics like improved efficiency, some cases reduced costs, looking for opportunities for increased revenue, and also looking for ways to improve our overall customers' experience. So getting those KPIs set at the outset is critical.
Mm.
But then you need some flexibility and you need some measurement along the way. It's not just a set and forget. You need to make sure you continuously track progress so you can see if you're on track. And of course correct wherever you need to. And that requires continuous learning and improvement. It requires the ability to foster a culture of experimentation where teams are empowered within the program team to refine those AI models. So, first of all, KPIs. Second, all continuous tracking on that journey. Lastly, and we've seen this from experience, don't underestimate change management. Implementing AI often requires significant change to workflow processes, but also in some cases, job roles. So they're the three areas I would focus on. But to be honest, that's no different from any major transformational project.
Yeah.
We'd like to think we can help organizations. Dell Services can help address many of those challenges. We have a full portfolio of services for AI, but also for those organizations that are really at the start of the journey. We offer a service called the AI Accelerator Workshop, and that brings together our experts as well as our experts from our partner organizations, and we can help determine how business can achieve maximum benefits from AI. We'll focus on activities required to achieve the desired end state, but also set a number of initial steps so organizations can get started.
I think what I'm hearing from you is that while AI, generative AI in particular, is new technology, that doesn't mean that you have to treat it like something that's completely alien and you don't know what you're doing at all. Apply the same rules, apply the same tools, look for partners like Dell, and you're setting yourself off in the best possible way.
Yeah, I agree.
On the other side of the room, you have the stereotype of the executive who is caught up in the AI hype, who's excited to adopt AI, haven't really established a specific timeline for adoption, though. How do you slow down that conversation to ensure that businesses don't just rush headlong into adopting AI systems that they aren't prepared for?
Yeah, I think it goes back to something that we talked about earlier on in this discussion, Jane, and that was the aligning AI strategies with business goals. It can't be a theoretical concept. It's absolutely critical to success. And if you don't start off in the right direction, you won't reach the right destination. When I look at our own organization at Dell, we had the same challenge. But what we started with were what are the four key areas of business value we think AI will bring? And in our case, engineering capability was one of the key areas we felt AI would help, and it's one of the areas we're known for. We also wanted to look at, again, something that's within our DNA from 40 years ago when Michael started the company, and that's supply chain. That's really critical to our success. How can we use AI to enhance and optimize our supply chain.
Mm.
And then the other two areas were sales and services enhancements. If you like, they're the four areas of business value that we were really focused on in when we looked at how to deliver AI outcomes. And to be honest, we then started with, I think it was 800 different projects. We said, look, you're going to be the fulcrum, the center point, and we identified somebody who was going to be the effectively the president of AI within Dell, and that individual became the point where all of these ideas from all of the organization came in. And at that point, we could have then gone into that mode we talked about where AI project first come, first served.
Mm.
But by the same token, we could have spent a long time analyzing those 800 use cases and probably over analyzing and getting into pilot purgatory. But what we decided to do was to look at, of those use cases, which ones can we deliver in those four key areas of business value that we've talked about?
Mm-hmm.
What's the return on investment? How easy is it to get there? And that allowed us to whittle down those 800 projects down to 16 and then get us started. By prioritizing those areas with our AI investment, we knew that's where we could see the most return. And I would advise anybody who's looking at, even if they're on the journey rather than starting the journey, are you sure that those AI projects are aligned to your key areas of business value?
Another difficulty that we find when it comes to generative AI was actually highlighted in Dell's Innovation Catalyst research. 41% of respondents said that they were struggling to keep pace with innovation in the sector. So is any AI adoption better than none here, as it allows leaders to get hands-on experience with the technology and inform further investment, or not?
Yeah, I think there's always a balance to be struck, and it does highlight some of the topics we've already covered. Listen, if there's not a clear roadmap and a plan for delivering business value, then it's doomed to failure. But there has to be an element of test and learn attitude as well. So it's getting that balance between, a rigid focus on business value, but still the freedom to test and learn. And all organizations are looking for that balance. We're looking for that balance. And it's probably a never-ending journey to get there. But to recognize the ideal AI projects will have that element of balance. Experimentation should be encouraged because it will identify variables that can solve problems. And we've found if we are looking to experiment, using synthetic data creation is a great way to get started and to test your models. And it can be a way of accelerating, is this use case going to work when we bring our own data to it? So I think leaders need to be vigilant to change. You need to be fairly agile in decision making and also adaptable as that program journey begins. And this requires a certain level of tolerance, I would say, the tolerance to failure. You've got to accept there's going to be some missteps. There's going to be some failures on the way. So that creates, if you like, an understanding that not every AI project or decision will lead to success. But again, I go back to, if it's aligned to business value, it increases your chances of success manyfold.
I was just thinking, when you're talking about sort of aligning to business value, when we're talking about kind of not just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff, it reminds me a little bit of the early days of cloud computing, that everyone's just like, let's just put it in the public cloud. Let's just do it because that's what everyone is doing.
It will solve all our problems.
And then it turns out that actually that's good for some applications, but not for others. And yeah, I have very much the same feeling about generative AI as there was in the early days of cloud.
I think you're right, Jane. I think you're absolutely on the money. We saw that cloud first, almost gold rush. Everything's going to go in the cloud. I think we're now at that balance, the point where we're saying, cloud appropriate or cloud smart. We're going to run our data and applications wherever they make sense. If it's the public cloud and it's right, great. But if it's our own data center or a co-location or increasingly at the edge, to be closer to our customers, to be closer to the data source. I think that balance we've got there in cloud. I think right now people are rushing to solve problems that probably don't need AI with AI because of that similar approach that you saw in cloud computing.
Yeah. So you've spoken about what Dell can offer to customers or potential customers, but Dell isn't asking enterprises to take its word on any of this. You've conducted an internal modernization drive under the title of Customer Zero. Could you explain this in a little bit more detail and how it's informed your approach to AI?
So yeah, customer zero, it's a term we use, and I guess it's akin to eating your own dog food, or maybe I should say drinking your own champagne. It kind of embodies the philosophy that we have, which is be our own first and best customer. So as I talked about earlier, we're focused on those 4 areas of business value. And if I talk about those, let me group maybe sales and support into a single thing. We're really looking to improve the way we can interact with our customers, but also get to faster issue resolution. So we're leveraging these learnings to help our clients transform their customer-facing operations. So what we're learning, we're then taking to our customers. For example, we're leveraging Microsoft's Copilot in many of our sales teams. And what's that's allowing us to do when we're in, Teams meetings with our customers, and we'll say, look, would you mind if we, leverage transcript to take a note of this conversation so that then we have an automatic summary. We can automatically send an email out to everybody who was on the call who can pick up their own actions from that call. That's a massive productivity benefit for our team. So it allows them to spend more time with more customers. But it's also a great way of getting really accurate data on what are the conversations we're having with our customers on a daily basis. So that pilot has really helped us drive both productivity, but also improved customer engagement. When I look at the support element, and we're not there yet, but I can see a day where, let's take a Dell laptop and we start to see, for example, the screen starting to fail. Wouldn't it be great if the Dell laptop went back to Central Dell Command Center and said, I'm going to fail soon. Please automatically deploy a replacement screen. And then wouldn't it be great if a customer, when that screen arrives, using Gen AI can automatically generate a video of how to replace that screen with a specific laptop they're using with a step-by-step guide. Again, we think that would be more efficient, but it would also be a way of enhancing the customer experience. So we're really excited about using AI to enhance our sales as well as our support organizations. But then I'll also look at our engineering capability. We've deployed Gen AI tools for code development across all of our engineering team. And that's not going to replace them. But what it allows them to do is maybe somewhere between 40 and 70% of the code is automatically generated. They can focus on the really value add elements of code. But what it means is we can deliver a faster time to value with our products and solutions, but we can also investigate more options to ensure that we get to the right product outcome. So again, really excited about what we're seeing in our engineering capability from Gen AI. And then finally, I talked about, Dell's DNA is our supply chain capability. That was the foundation that Michael built the company on. And we're really looking to use AI to look at how we optimize our supply chains. And we think that can result in significant cost savings, but also efficiency improvements. And again, that's an area that we're taking those learnings in a customer zero type way and bringing them to our customers. So if our customers are looking to use AI for enhancing their support or sales organization, if they're looking to use AI to look at supply chain operations, if they're looking to use AI to build better, higher quality products, then these are all learnings that we've had on our journey. And that's what certainly I mean when we talk about customer zero. Us being the first customer to learn, make some mistakes along the way, sure, but learn. and then bring that expertise to our customers.
So we've spoken a bit about pragmatism as well. What does being pragmatic about AI mean on a technical level? Is it about keeping your options open? So, for example, using multiple public AI tools or open source AI that's platform agnostic? And how is Dell empowering its customers to make these choices for themselves?
Yeah, I think I'm back to that word we've used quite a lot, which is balance. I think being pragmatic about AI on a technical level means striking a balance. It's not about rigidly committing to one path, but really just creating an AI ecosystem that allows you to adapt, but also allows you to evolve as your business needs potentially evolve as well. But what does that really mean in practice? I would say it means three things. The first thing is you've got to try and avoid vendor lock-in. I know that's difficult, but relying solely on one provider or a platform, that can limit the options and it can make it really difficult to adapt as the
Mm.
future technologies change. So I would try and make sure you avoid being locked into a single platform. Try and go for platform agnostic type solutions and ones that can integrate easily with other systems. The second element, and many organizations are already doing this, but continue to embrace open source technologies. They offer flexibility, transparency, but as well as you have that vibrant community who can support and continue to innovate those platforms. So I think open source is critical, but also helps you with your vendor locking challenge. And then final, and you talked about it as well, I think adopting hybrid or multi-cloud strategies is critical. The public cloud will absolutely be right for some AI projects. There's no question about it. But I think it's much easier to bring AI to your data. And most organizations' data remains on premise or remains at the edge. So I think taking a balanced approach where you it could mean running some applications on premises, running some applications in the public cloud, and still others at the edge, depending on all the factors like data security, like latency requirements, but also cost.
Mm.
So for me, avoiding vendor lock-in, adopting and embracing open source tools, as well as taking on a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud approach is probably the most pragmatic way to get going with AI. I think from a Dell perspective, we can help in many of those areas. So I talked at the earlier on about Dell Apex, the ability to only pay for what you're consuming to avoid that large capital investment. But also I talked about the Dell AI Factory. That's a comprehensive range of pre-validated AI solutions. So we take a lot of the heavy lifting out of it, but it's also very much based on open source as well as proprietary tools. So we give you that choice as to which route you want to go down. Partnerships is also key. Clearly, we've talked about our partnerships with NVIDIA, um, but also other silicon manufacturers as well as AI organizations. So you're looking at that AI partnership ecosystem to avoid that single vendor lock-in. And I think also, we are very much committed to open standards. So we're promoting very much AI interoperability, which again will help avoid vendor lock-in. Um,
Mm.
but ultimately, what we're trying to do is offer flexibility and choice. We're trying to empower businesses to adopt AI in a way that aligns with their unique needs, but also takes account of risk tolerance and long-term vision, but also ensures the AI strategy is not just cutting edge, but also pragmatic and sustainable, there for the long term.
In the introduction to this episode, I asked the audience to think about what the next few years could look like for the tech industry. What are some of the biggest challenges on the horizon for businesses in tech? And conversely, what are some of the greatest opportunities?
I think the two biggest challenges are well known. I think the two biggest challenges are, how do we ensure responsible AI? Fundamentally, you could argue the world isn't a fair place. And if we start building our AI models based on the data of the past, then the world will remain an unfair place. So I think ensuring the responsible use of AI is critical to create a fairer world for everyone. I think the second challenge is security. We all have the story. I mean, my mother phoned me the other day talking about how she'd had a text from my sister saying her phone was broken. We managed to stop that one, but we can all imagine a situation where my sister video calls my mum in her voice, in her accent, and my mum's more likely to respond to that.
Yeah.
I think security around this will be critical. But Jane, I'm an optimist. I prefer to look at the power that AI can have for good, and I'm particularly interested in the area of health right now. As you know, our PM has announced a 6-month review of our health service. Wes Streeting's talked about the fact that any investment in national health is going to have to deliver improvements. And certainly he's talked about the opportunities that technology will bring to making the healthcare better for everybody in the UK. And we all know the challenges that the NHS face today are huge, but the opportunities that AI are going to bring are also enormous. When I think about just 3 areas of potential, I think the areas of diagnosis, the ability to use AI tools for speed and quality of ultrasound imaging. That's going to enable much faster diagnosis and hopefully treatment of patients in future. I think there's opportunities with AI with the patient journey as well, from scheduling appointments to accessing records to receiving personalized care and support. So I think there's opportunities for faster diagnosis. There's opportunities for patients through things like digital assistants to have a much more meaningful and productive journey with our health services. And I think finally, and this is what I'm really excited about, some of the work that Sanger Institute are doing, and actually Dr. Peter Clapham from Sanger Institute is going to be at Dell Tech Forum at the end of November. He's been looking at accelerating the discovery of new insights and therapies from massive amounts of genome data. So that's almost future-looking cures for illnesses that we know about today, but illnesses we won't know about until future. So I think the opportunities for future healthcare, which is being led by organizations like the Sanger Institute, is really, really exciting as well.
Yes, and Dell Technologies Forum, indeed, you mentioned it just there. What can attendees expect to learn about AI and how Dell is positioning itself as a catalyst for driving successful AI adoption?
I'm glad you brought up our Dell Technologies Forum because it's coming fast. It's towards the end of November at the magazine in London. We have about 1,000 plus customers, partners, subject matter experts on a whole range of topics. But as you can imagine, this is Dell Tech Forum, the AI edition. And actually, there's a specific AI track that customers can go on to get insights from both Dell and our partners on where to get started. But we also have some incredible guests. We have a keynote by our Chief Technology Officer, John Rose, who's going to talk about the future of AI. We also have Trailblazer sessions, which we talked about already, which Dr. Peter Clapham from Sanger Institute will be part of. And then we're going to have a bit of fun at the end. So David Mitchell of clearly Peep Show fame, massive fan, is going to be interviewing Professor Hannah Fry from UCL, a professor of maths there. I'm a massive fan of her podcast, Uncharted, where she basically looks at historical data and how that is defining how humans behave. So we're going to get some great insights from them, as I'm sure a little bit of fun as well. And then to top the evening, we've got the great Joe Wiley, who's going to do a DJ session for us, and we will party into the night. Well, maybe early evening, let's say.
That's fantastic. And indeed, anybody who would like more information about Dell Technologies Forum London and to register, they can visit bit.ly/Dell-ITPro Podcast. That's all one word. bit.ly/Dell-ITPro Podcast. Well, unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. But Steve, thank you so much for joining me.
You're very welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Jane.
As ever, you can find more information about everything we've spoken about today in the show notes and even more at itpro.com. We'll be back this Friday with our regular episode, but until then, goodbye.